Hi, everybody. I'm Matt.
I'm Dean.
Welcome to another episode of The Real DMV, your backstage pass to everything film-related in the D.C., Maryland, and Virginia area.
Matt, one of my favorite movies from the 90s would be The Crow. I haven't seen the new remake. I refuse. The only good Crow for me is the 1994. Brandon Lee. But famously, Brandon Lee was unfortunately killed on set.
Yeah, and obviously that's happened again recently.
That's recent events have brought all that back to the surface.
And you can ask yourself, like, how could that possibly happen? Well, there's
absolutely.
a myriad reasons, and I think,
I think there were a lot of people talking about who may be at fault on the set, how that could even happen, the experience of the armorers. Our next guest can speak a lot to that. She is a former law enforcement officer, retired. She's an actor. She's a producer. She's a firearms instructor who teaches a class here in the DMV about firearms and firearms safety on set. That's a very important thing, and I think we're going to put that information out for anybody who's interested in taking that course, because she just taught it on Saturday and is very successful. It's gotten a lot of really good reviews. You can also see her on shows like The Wire, Law and Order.
Mayor of Kingstown.
She was in Wonder Woman 1984.
Orange is the New Black.
I've got a question about that one.
Veep.
She's done a ton of things. And we also talk a lot about mentors and things like that. She's actually somebody with my background that I kind of look up to in terms of, this is what I can try to strive for once I retire. I'm a long way from retiring, but that's what I'm working towards.
You're a consummate suck-up.
I am a consummate suck-up, and like and subscribe. But she's done numerous things. She's such an expert in her field. I'm really excited to have her. So we're not gonna do too much banter here, because I really want to introduce her at this point. It's Miss Vickie Warehime. There we go.
Yay. I'm like, who are you talking about?
Yeah, that would be you. That would be you, Vickie.
I think you call me old when you're like, and then when I aspire to.
I aspire to one day
be as old as
wise me. And no, because it's a situation where, and I think we talked about it backstage before this, where I was having one of my moments, a tough actor moment, and you're in front of people and you feel like you're being judged, and it was a self-tape, I believe. And I remember that day you said, I feel like I'm watching myself 5 years ago.
I remember that. Yep.
Yeah.
And it was a wake-up call for me. I think that might have been even a year or two ago now. It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And a lot can happen in a year or two. Still trying to get better, but I have that in the back of my mind, and I go, oh, yeah, I know what I need to work on.
And I just want to take a moment to apologize for calling you a consummate suck-up, because I feel like you took issue with the consummate part.
I still want to interview the two of you at some point about all of this, but
I'm not sure what consummate
moving
means.
on.
I knew.
I'm gonna have
Can
to
you
look
spell
that
it?
up.
That's why I said
that's a
then-
Scrabble word at this point.
See, I didn't know there was going to be a test, so
Yeah.
we're going to leave that out. But, so, Vickie, we have two truths and a lie.
Oh, awesome.
We usually like to start that out. Sometimes Matt likes to do two lies and a truth.
I live in a world of lies.
He's a little backwards. But this will be easy for you.
Okay. Which means it's never easy. Go ahead.
It'll be so easy.
And here's the setup.
I promise. You have a law enforcement background. You were once a live DJ playing dance music.
As compared to a dead DJ, but go ahead.
And never mind the fact you mentioned she was in law enforcement during the intro.
Yeah,
but anyway,
pretty much.
that aside,
Right.
continue.
Did I mention you were in law enforcement? I'm telling you what you used to do. But the third one is the best, because I think I've told you this before. Your command presence when you walk in the room makes me pee a little.
What do I do with that?
I get scared.
Which one is the lie?
Do you want me to tell you which one the lie is?
Yes.
I don't think you pee yourself.
Well, I can smell it from here.
I think maybe I
Yeah,
need to
no.
consult a
Okay.
urologist.
This is going down a bad path.
It is.
But I think I've told you that before, because you have that command presence from our background, right? So as an actor coming into this, because what I want to do is segue into how you got into this from your background, similar to mine.
Such a great question, because I was our public affairs officer, PIO, for the police department. So I did all the major crime TV events. Anytime there was a major event, they'd see me on TV. I'd give the press briefing. I would write the speech for the chief. I would do the press conferences, live, taped. So there was a lot of pressure for getting things right. So for me, in my training, Bill Tilley was my mentor, and he was fantastic. But one of the things he would tell me was like, talk for 30 seconds and shut up. Get your information out and be done with it. So I got into a rhythm as being a PIO. Well, you don't smile about a homicide.
Right.
You don't smile about a violent crime. So a lot of folks were like, oh, you're just so serious. I'm like, yeah, but you can't laugh about this stuff, and you have to give that information out. So when I got done that as a corporal, I got promoted to sergeant, went back to patrol, and I was lucky enough to get assigned to a precinct where I was running our community outreach division with domestic violence, traffic, school resource officers, and our community patrol, working side by side with a guy by the name of Jay Landsman, which might ring a bell if you've watched The Wire or done anything with homicide life on the streets, the corner. He was in that David Simon world because he had worked the majority of his time as homicide in Baltimore City. And then he came to my agency in Baltimore County. So now I'm working with Jay, and I know he's currently on The Wire as Major Mello. Everybody in the precinct knew it. Everybody wanted his autograph. It was hilarious. So he came down to me one day and he goes, Vickie, in his lovely South Baltimore accent, he goes, you need to be on this show. And I was like, Jay, I don't know what you're talking about. He goes, look, Pat Morin's casting. It's filming in Baltimore. You can do it while you're working. I've done it. You need to submit a headshot. And I looked at him and I said, Jay, I'm a firearms instructor. To me, a headshot is 2 to the chest and 1 to the head. I don't know what you're talking about. And he's like, God, shut up, get against that wall. And it was a plain background. And he snaps my picture. I submit it to casting. I get an audition for The Wire. I'm like, that's easy. Why does everybody think this acting thing is so hard? Right? I get the audition. I go in. I'm wearing, this is how dumb I am. I'm wearing like shorts and a t-shirt. I don't know. And I'm going in for a police officer role. I'm like, whatever, show up here, go in, do the audition. I do the audition. They're like, all right, we'll let you know. Before I got home, I got a message. You have a callback. Your callback is next week, and it's going to be with Dominic Murphy. He's actually doing one of the scenes. He's producing one of the scenes. So I'm like, great, still don't know what that means. By the way, Katie yells at me all the time. I'm the worst actor that knows nothing about actors. So I go to the scene. I get done. And again, not wearing anything like cop-like. I go in, do the scene, and Dominic goes, you might have to actually, it's Dominic West. What am I saying?
Dominic West.
Dominic West, my apologies. Dominic West. See, I told you I'm the worst one. Don't go by me. He goes, you might actually have to take someone down in one of these scenes. I looked at my watch and I said, well, in 3 hours, if you're doing nothing, I have roll call to handle. And then after roll call, I'll be on patrol, and that will probably happen today. You are more than welcome to ride along with me if you want. And they all kind of laughed. Before I even got to my car, my phone was ringing. I booked the part on The Wire.
That's cool.
But because you didn't know any better, right? I book it, I film it, I have to drive the car, I have to do all the things, like be prepared to be on set. They're like, are you familiar? Can you drive this car? I'm like, I've been driving this car for over 20 years, sure. Outdrove all the stunt drivers. They're like, can you slow down next time you drive? Because our stunt guys can't keep up with you. But it was such a great experience. And I was like, oh, this is acting. I think I'm hooked. Then I had to do the homework. Then I had to learn business. Then I had to understand that was a one-off. You got to do your work. You got to meet your people. So happy to have met Katie Kalaki with CapitalCoachingStudios.com. Throw that in a couple million times. Yeah. No, but seriously, right? You got to find your people.
CapitalCoachingStudios.com.
Well, let me tell you, I rolled through some acting coaches, and there were some scenarios talking about being in law enforcement, and I will not name him, but he did a scene where he had his actors say, all right, we have to see how you look scared and what are your emotions being scared. So, and this is even before any of your issues with firearms. He took a fake gun, which no one checked. No one looked to see if it was real or not. No one looked. They just took his word, and he stuck it to the actor's head. And I remember, I'm in the crowd back here. You could pay to watch if you couldn't afford to take the class. So I paid to watch. And I'm like, what is happening right now? And he goes, all right, we need to show fear. And I'm like gathering my stuff, calling my friend, going, I'm faking a seizure. I have to get out of here. And she goes, do you need to go to the hospital? What's going on? I'm like, no, I'm faking a seizure. I got to get out of this classroom because if you put a gun to my head, how am I going to disarm you? Yeah. How am I going to flip it and use it on you or beat you with it?
4 rules of gun safety.
Like just put me in a different mindset. Yeah. So I mean, I know I'm all over the place, but that led me to finding the right coach and mentor who then became one of my best friends, which is Katie Kalaki. But that led me to her and a funny story of how we met and moving forward. But you know, I know you've had her on here before, and she's right. You got to find that right coach, that right person that's going to understand your language, and understand who you are, and then be able to figure out how you are as an actor compared to who you are as a human being. But they do have to be the same person.
Yeah, I had another coach before Katie too, and without saying a whole lot, it's just a different world.
Different world, and that works for some people. But you got to go through those things to find the person that gets you to then let you become successful in acting.
Then I got lucky stumbling in early.
You did.
Yeah,
you did. Yeah.
Wow. So, I mean, but you opened up by, Dean, asking about the, and maybe we can go into this later, but just the gun safety stuff, and you just touched on it. Like, how does that happen? Well, there's probably a million reasons. I mean, because everybody assumes that it's someone else's responsibility is usually how those things happen. And then, you do the chain of custody piece, and you work your way backwards from the problem, and you find out here's how it actually unfolded. But
right, but by then it's too late.
It's too late.
You want to be proactive and not reactive.
You can't pull that round back.
Right. So you want to be proactive and know what you're getting into and have that level of confidence, and that's why we teach that class, so that some actors have never held a gun before, some have held a gun before. There's a totally different technique when holding a gun for TV and film compared to in real life. So there is that nuance of differences. But for myself and Rick Kain, who teach this class, it's safety, safety, safety. That's the number one thing.
So it's built on a foundation of firearms fundamentals and safety. Then the acting piece is separate.
Yes.
Because it's just, like you said, your eye line's different. You're not going to hold
my God,
the
you don't
sights
do
up
sight alignment at all.
Sight alignment, all that stuff.
No.
For camera reasons.
Right, so there's nuances between a dummy round and a blank.
There's some wadding or something
So
like that,
there's some common language that people will say, and they think a dummy round is the same as a blank. And we have some instructional videos that show you that a blank will kill you at a short distance. You need at least 9 feet plus for that round to have no effect, no concussion effect. And compared to a dummy round, compared to a non-functioning round. But we get into that, and we get hands-on with the folks so they can see it, feel it, touch it, be comfortable enough to know, if you walk out of that class knowing what a real round is compared to a safe round, compared to a dummy round, compared to a blank, and then how to make sure the gun is clear. That's it.
Talking about these classes for the uninitiated, for people that don't know, how often are these classes? You teach it with Rick Kain, who's also a fellow actor, and we can get into that. But the gist of the class you just described.
Right, so it's about a 4-hour class. If Rick gets on a roll, it goes a little bit longer. But it's...
Love you, Rick.
Yes. No, and kudos to him, because we're dealing with actual firearms. So you're going to get the opportunity to get your hands on what's called an airsoft handgun. You're going to get a real handgun. You're going to get a period piece handgun, right? If you're going back to musket loading, or if we're doing revolvers, or if you're doing semi-automatics, all of those things that... What has filmed in this area, Turn, was down in Virginia. House of Cards and Beep were up here. So you run the gamut from AK-47s all the way down to a musket loader. And he has all that for you to physically feel, touch, and understand and get that level where you're comfortable enough to be able to say, hey, wait, I remember what that gun is. I remember I have to look down this barrel, or I have to see that this magazine does come out. Like, I was on a set. We both were given airsoft pistols. I was playing a police officer. And I knew the person that was the armorer, and I knew he really wasn't an armorer. It was a low budget. So I'm like, okay, we both have airsoft pistols. They showed, he pulls the mag out of one. He doesn't pull the mag out of another, and he says, well, this magazine doesn't come out. I've been known to maybe be a little too forward. And I said to him, I go, can I see that gun, please? And they knew I was law enforcement. And all I had to do was just work it to pop that mag out.
Yeah.
I'm not going to have, and my fellow actor had that gun. I'm not going to go on a set where I'm pointing a weapon at somebody and I don't think your gun is safe, and I have that knowledge to be able to say, hold on a second, these are the same guns, same mag release, same magazine, that magazine should come out.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not even necessary that much anymore to have a working firearm on set anymore. You can have something that looks...
Yes.
The John Wick films are a good example of that. Nothing is coming out. There's no projectile.
Right.
And we had a conversation the other day about how that works. And for people that aren't aware, can you explain how that works on a set?
Well, you do it in post. And there's a lot of things with filming certain angles with the weapon. Do you need to see that it has rounds in it? What kind of weapon is it? So there's a lot of things that you can work out with rounds that are not, they're actual dummy rounds that don't have a primer in it. There's no ammunition. There's nothing in there. There's no gunpowder. just from a photography perspective, if it's a close-up that you can see and work that through, and Rick does a great job with his videos and showing all of that. That's that production side of it. I'm more the actual firearm side of it. This the understand the nomenclature of these weapons to make sure everything is safe, to make sure you, as an actor getting onto a set, dealing with a weapon. And Rick and I have told this to a million people. If you get an audition or you get on set and it involves a gun and you're not comfortable, call one or call me, Rick, whatever. We'll walk you through it. But it's so important to us. Just call us, email us. We'll walk you through it.
Like I would imagine anyone can call ceasefire, like you're on the range.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like it's
Exactly. But you have to have that confidence to know, wait a second, you didn't really show me. Can I see down the barrel? You need to know that those words. Is the magazine empty? Can I see the magazine? That's it. And then you said it, chain of custody. If that gun left my sight and then someone comes back, start all over again.
Yeah.
You got to check. But that's the stuff that we teach. And it's like a 4-hour class. It's hands-on. We go through some stuff for what to look like on TV. How do you work from a body perspective? How do you stand as a police officer?
Yeah.
All of
flagging,
those
are you
things
flagging
moving
your
forward.
weapon out of a window.
Yeah.
I mean, do the students come out of this with a reel?
So that is going to be our second phase that we're doing. We're going to go into a tactical one where we're actually going to have you kitted up so you can feel what it's like to actually wear some of the things for film and TV, how to properly wear it, and then we're going to work on a real part for that. But it's so important for Rick and I to get this first part done where you have 101.
Right.
And we bring everyone in like you don't know what you're doing or what you're looking at. And like I said, the videos alone that he's created, the hands-on that you get to do with physically holding around, telling the difference, looking at it, holding different guns, how to load or unload these different guns. Once we get to that point, then we can get you a reel moving forward to the combat part.
I think that'd be an interesting piece, you know, like some CQB or something like that.
Yes, correct.
You know?
Close quarters combat. I'll interpret for you.
Thank you. I'm usually the one doing that. So, or shooting and driving or something like that. There's just different stuff.
All the things.
Yeah.
But let's get safety down first.
This
But we teach it once a month is what we're trying to get into a rhythm of once a month. So we just did it now. We have another class coming up in April. We're looking for the summer to do our close quarter combat, tactical combat one.
But I think this episode is going to appeal to a certain audience. I mean, this is a super specific but really cool, interesting topic. And it's relevant right now because of all the stuff that's happened recently. And, you know,
Absolutely.
it can happen again, you know.
Right, and we don't want it to happen again, so.
So
Awesome.
And it's been interesting because I was on a set and we had this conversation where there were extras who had never handled a firearm. Dean, can you come over here and show them how to hold a firearm?
It's a warm, fuzzy feeling, isn't it?
As
you're on set going, what?
I didn't have a problem with it as long as it meant that everybody was safe. That meant that I got to look at all the firearms. That meant that I got to inspect everything. I've shot with the same director where we've had to do take after take because my brain is trained.
Oh, yeah, you got to get out of that.
Yeah.
You got to get out of that.
And it was muscle memory.
Right.
And they were like, yeah, that was a great take, but we're going to have to do it again. And I had to
So you've got the opposite
consciously-
problem of being too competent with weapons.
Well,
Yeah.
So, and he alluded to this earlier, and I've watched myself do this, and again, kudos to Katie, but you got to peel back layers. If you've been in any side of a paramilitary or military environment, you instinctively, for 20 and a half years, I walked a certain way, I carried a gun a certain way, I approached a scene a certain way, I shot a certain way, I'm a firearms instructor.
Right.
All of those things just don't go away. So you have to go, wait a second, that's real life. What's TV? And there is a difference. And that's one of the things that we teach, but there's a definite difference of how you're actually going to approach and hold. Like I was telling somebody the other day, I looked at my slate and I'm like, what am I doing? I stand such that for 28 and a half years, I had a gun on this side, ass baton, handcuffs, radio, double magazine pouch, extra set of mag, right? I stand with my arms out a little bit because they just never go down by your side. And my stance is a little bit wider for support. And I looked at my slate and I was like, what the hell, what am I doing? You know, and you have to make those adjustments and understand that that's going to be a part of you and that's what you want to bring to acting. But you got to TV it up a little bit.
But there's a fine line of authenticity. And for me, I get frustrated when I watch a military movie or something like that. And they get it completely wrong.
Yes.
So you can tell when a director has like put the time in and said, this is important to make it at least look believable for those who are going to pick this apart.
Right.
And then there's some that are probably just like, this is not really an important part of the movie. And so it looks completely gooned up.
Yeah.
So how do you...
Oh my God.
Have you been on a set where you're like,
Yes.
no,
Yes.
It has to be tighter.
I've been on a movie set. I've been on a TV set. There was some stuff that was filming here in Baltimore. Great things. But I'd go over to props, and they'd be like, "What are we doing wrong?" I go, "If you don't mind,
Where shall I begin?
if you don't mind, can we put this here, put this here?" And they're like, "Please just tell us." And that's great. But man, you got to be careful on a set. You got to be careful to offer too. You don't want to over offer, and you don't know if the director is intentionally doing something with that person, and that's the decision the director made to make that character not look professional. So it's you got to have a certain level of confidence, and then you got to have a certain level of smartness to be like, not my lane, not my
Right,
rodeo.
yeah.
I'm staying here, and I'm living here, and I'm going to be squared away. But if someone else is going to do something different, I'm not getting paid for that.
Right.
So it's a balance, but it's sometimes so hard. Chicago PD does a really good job with their tactical and how they do their low ready and their approach and stance. And then I laugh at the main character that just walks through without any bulletproof vest on or whatever on. But that's a director's choice for that character, right? That's intentional.
Interesting.
That goes to his confidence there. Actually, I can think of, as soon as you said that, I thought of a guy that I know the same way, and he won't wear the vest. He won't even carry a firearm, and you're on a search warrant.
Or you're getting ready to go into the house and you know there's a weapon in it, and I see him grabbing a trash can lid, real life, and I'm like, "Whoa, what are you doing, dude?" I'm going in.
Wasn't there a guy on Walking Dead who was very anti-firearm, and they had the CGI to the point where they had the CGI in the firearm for him, and his character. Maybe I'm making this up, but I think there's a lot of. I think I'm right.
But it's important to get firearms right from an actor perspective of being safe, and then when you film it on TV, it adds to the whole scene because you can tell. Ocean's, I think it's 11, drives me crazy. It's the one at the very end of the movie where they have the van that's being driven onto the tarmac, and it's being driven by the robot, and the FBI or the detectives or whatever were following this van, and it was fake, right? It had the explosion in the back of the supposed to be money, but it was paper, and then everyone else gets away, and the guy draws down, and when he draws down, his thumbs are like this, right? Well, you both know because you use firearms, right? The thumbs are always on the same side. Your thumbs are never crossed because then you get a slide bite. When the slide comes in, it rips the skin
Beretta
off.
bite.
Yeah, right?
I've had that.
And I was like,
I've had Berettas hanging from my.
yeah.
Yes.
I'm like, where was the person that did the firearms on that film? But
Yeah, and then the opposite end of the spectrum, you have Heat.
Oh, God, I know.
where they went through extensive firearms training, and it looks good.
Yeah.
It looks authentic, and you can tell that they had good weapons handling and stuff like that. So, I mean, that's the one that comes to mind.
Yep.
There have been many that have tried to mimic that.
But
maybe
that's
Den
been
of Thieves or whatever.
it's been a good segue for me as an actor to then align myself with great people like Rick Kain. And then we have this safety mesh, and he's so good with all the weapons, and he understands where I come from. And we are yin and yang, and poor Dean got to see us yin and yang the other day at dinner. But that's what a good
fantastic.
friend. But that's what a good friend does, right?
Sure, yeah.
We are going to agree to disagree, or we're going to do point counterpoint.
Should be able to do that.
Yeah, but the end game is safety.
Yes, and it's the same goal. You might disagree on how to get there, but it's the same goal. Everybody wants the same thing. Now, to segue a little bit from that, unless you had something here.
No, I only have one more. Like, you teach this class, and I don't want you to denigrate other classes out there, but what are the red flags you see when people go and say, oh, hey, I saw this thing down in North Carolina or whatever, and it's a weapons class. How do you know, how would they know to sniff out whether that's going to be a bona fide, safety-oriented one or just a how to act on screen one?
Right.
What are the key words to look for?
Well, I'm a huge proponent of education and training, whether it's wherever you can get it, get it. And it's just like trying to find an acting coach or go to different classes.
Yeah.
Some will work, some won't work. Do your homework. Who are your instructors? What is their background? Do they have any reviews for class that they can put up? But at the end of the day, sometimes you need to go to a not so good class to understand the really good classes, right? You don't know what you don't know. So, I mean, I'm not going to talk bad about any other classes. And if people want to go, if you have the financial means to do it and you can travel and do it, just do your homework.
Yeah.
Make sure it's vetted. If someone has taken that class, reach out to them, try and get that information for them. But at the end of the day, training is training. Some of it's okay, some of it's better, but at least you're training. You're investing in yourself, which is the biggest thing to do as actors. We need to invest in ourselves.
Yeah.
to make ourselves feel comfortable and better.
Well said.
Yeah.
Now your question.
So I want to segue for a second. It bleeds into your work, but also self-tapes. Because in Orange is the New Black.
Uh-huh.
And that's just one of the many things that you've done. But I have always wondered.
Where I actually play a prisoner, not a police officer.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's. I mean, that's not the part I was wondering about.
Okay.
That was just interesting. That was a side note. But if I got the sides to do that today, because you took something out of somebody's mouth and put it in yours, what do the sides like that look like? What was the self-tape or the in-person audition for that like?
So 2 things. I auditioned for another part, and I saw who got the part. I didn't meet that physicality for that person. They were looking at something very specific, and I'm not that big. So they gave me then this principal part. But just so you know, it's a coffee stir that I take out of Red's mouth.
Coffee stir. Yeah.
So with that, we actually paused, and they gave a new coffee stir.
Okay.
And then I put it in my mouth.
I was also wondering that.
Yes. So that we did it a couple of different ways, but they ultimately ended up with the decision was for me to take it out of her mouth, pause, give me a new coffee stir, and then put it in my mouth.
You just kind of paused right there, and they
Yeah,
said,
just
all right,
paused right there. Then they just slipped in, props came in, gave me another coffee stir, and then I put it in my mouth. But that was an audition I did. We were in an actual prison that was active. We were up in Queens, New York. So we were up on like the top floor where they have like the gym and the outdoor basketball area and stuff like that. So we get done filming and I've got to go. I have another audition. My New York agent is hitting me up to do another audition. I got grease in my hair because they greased me up to be a prisoner. We're trying to get out. There's one elevator. And when you yell cut, everyone's going for that elevator. All the extras, crafty, producers, right, everyone. So I see the director go towards the steps, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to get down here. Now, mind you, they took all of our ID, everything from us going into this prison, all downstairs at the main guard shack. We get escorted up to this floor. This is the floor they took all the prisoners off of, but it's an active prison. So we're going down these steps, and we get down to the ground floor, and we can't get out. The door's locked. I'm like, it says fire exit. How's that locked? But you're in a prison. So someone got the bright idea to go back up 2 floors and to go onto an active floor. Let me remind you, I'm wearing an orange jumpsuit that says prisoner.
Oh.
I got grease in my hair. I have no ID on me at all. So we're all going up, and I see the director start to walk out, and I go, hold on a second. I'm actual law enforcement. This is not a good idea. Let me see if I can spy around the corner. So I go spy around the corner, and there's prisoners. There's guards. And I was like, nope, wrong floor to be on, people. We can't be here because you don't want to have that conversation. Just then someone got on the radio and they go, come to this section. The elevator's working. We'll bring you an elevator.
Next thing you know, you get a real prisoner slipping into your population.
Exactly,
your
right?
group and like, great escape.
Exactly. I mean, I was dying at that point. I'm like, this is going to be something to remember.
That was for the
coming out
blooper
of.
reel.
Yeah.
That was
man.
not.
Wow.
But no, I put my head around the corner. I saw the guard. He didn't see me. Prisoners wearing the same thing I'm wearing. I'm like, I don't have time to explain all of this.
Right.
I'm just an actor. And I can imagine, everyone, so am I. I'm just an actor.
I didn't do it.
I didn't do it. And my cousin did it.
They
These
were
aren't my pants.
My pants.
I don't understand what's in my pocket.
So you got to act with David Schwimmer and John Doman.
Yes.
Who,
Yes.
soft spot in my heart for him, second lieutenant in 3rd Marine Division, Vietnam.
Great guy. Great guy.
What was that like?
Very blessed to be, and that was one of those scenarios where I was still working law enforcement. I was doing background investigation, so I had a great captain that said, get your work done. I don't care how you do it. So I would do case files in my trailer before I would go to set. So I was John Doman's caregiver. I did 10 episodes on a cool show called Feed the Beast, which sadly did not get renewed for season 2. So it ran on AMC. It was like back in 2016, 2017. So what a professional. So I'm in every scene with him because I'm literally lifting him out of cars and wheeling him around and stuff. And I would play off of him. If he was chatty, I was chatty. If he wasn't chatty, I wasn't saying a word. So
You mean offset?
Offset.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so we're offset, and if he's asking questions, I'm going to go ahead and go through. And then I could tell some days he had like heavy dialogue. And I had a character that didn't say a word, principal character that didn't have to do a line, but yet I was in scene all the time with him. And then, I remember an extra hopped in the car with us, and the extra was like, and I could just see his face, like
Because he's got to be inside of his head.
he's inside of his head. And I just kind of leaned back. I'm like, let's just give him a second, right? But what a great guy. David Schwimmer is Ross. I'm here to tell you.
Is he?
He's Ross. He's so funny. Great guy. Brought his family on set. We had a scene where I had to kick him out of the office. So he's Don Doman's son. They get into an argument, and John motions for me to get him out. Don't tell me to grab somebody and get him out. I'm going to get him out. So I do the typical hand on the back shoulder thing, right? And we get out, we all cut. He comes over, he goes, hey, that was cool and all, but can you not push me so hard next time? My bad, David. I apologize. He goes, I know you're law enforcement and all, but can you just bring it down a little bit? Yes, sir, I can.
Felt like I did something really wrong.
Shout out to David Schwimmer, who will
Such
probably...
a nice guy.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's fantastic, because we ask a lot about funny stories, because there are tons of horror stories on set too. So, and we won't call anybody out about that. But you also did Mayor of Kingstown.
Mm-hmm. Diane Weiss, fantastic.
And-
She was great.
And you mentioned it on that, if you can talk about this, how there were some lines potentially, those things happen,
Yep.
for the sake of the episode and running time. So can you speak to that a little bit?
Oh, and that was such a fun set, again, in a prison, but this time I was a prison guard. And that was where, like, I knew some things were happening. I'm like, yeah, but that wouldn't happen in real life. So I gave it a swipe, and I said to the one guy, and I'm like, hey, do me a favor, can you sit and hand me this? Because I wouldn't just go and get this as something. He was the front desk guy when you came in, and he had to hand me the visitor pass to give to Diane. And I was like, can you hand me that? And I know I'm mic'd up. So everything you say, they can be like, hey, look, we're good, don't do that or whatever. Once I was successful on that one, I was like, yeah, but this would also help too. Like, I couldn't get this door shut. I was trying to get out to get to Diane to get down to the hallway. And those doors are heavy. In a prison, we were in a real prison in Pittsburgh, and those freaking doors are heavy. And I looked at the extra and I go, do you mind closing that door behind me? Well, they kept all of that we kept doing. But it was a long scene going down the hallway. We had lines bantering back and forth all the way to the end, whatever. You don't know until you see it if your lines are cut or you make the scene. That's why I never tell anybody what's coming up or if I'm doing something, because you just don't know. It might just get dumped.
But that's one of those read the room risky moves. You made a calculated decision to
Yes.
say, hand me that.
Yes.
And that,
Yes.
but
But
and
that
it worked.
But because
that
I've been
time.
in that prison area,
Yeah.
I've had prisoners where I've had to go into the jails before to do interviews, so I knew what the protocol was. Because at any point they could be like, we have him doing this for X reason, and then I'd shut it down.
Right.
But we had a whole banter back and forth. It was like 2-3 pages of script. Get to the end of the thing, go to watch it. Nope. They're like, oh, you played background on Mayor of Kingstown. And I'm like, don't have a reaction, Vickie. You weren't background. You're a principal, but it's okay. You were there, right? It's just weird. But look, that's editor's prerogative. And it worked for the scene because it made it more tense until you got to that bottom part where they all were. And I was just blessed and so lucky to be on set, cast for that. And it's a great set and it's a great series.
And I heard that they're very law enforcement, military friendly.
Yes.
They're looking for that.
Yes.
Sometimes for the
No, great set, great crew, great casting. Yeah. All in all, very, very happy to have been there.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite shows. Actually, I didn't realize you were going to be on it. And I just happened to be watching the episode, and I was like, wait a minute.
I got to tell you,
did you pee?
That's
Did you?
but you know what? That's my favorite thing is when I get a text from somebody that says, oh my God, were you and Mayor of Kingstown? And I automatically go, okay, the episode is out, and I made the cut. Because other than that,
You wouldn't know.
I don't know. So I don't say anything. I made the mistake once of saying something, and the scene got pared down. Thank God I was in it, but it got pared down. And I was like, okay, lesson learned. If you filmed it, you said it best before. The audition's the win. Booking the part is icing on the cake. And then having your scene stay in it is like the best holiday ever.
Yeah.
How long were you up there for those shoots?
So had to do wardrobe, came up on a Friday, stayed the weekend, filmed on a Monday, came back Tuesday.
Okay.
Yeah. They're efficient. They knock
Yeah.
it out. They get it done.
Yeah, I was watching because I think I did an audition for a character that was supposed to be in the second episode. And I was watching it just to see who
booked the role?
got the role.
Yeah.
And so I really was not expecting to see anybody that I knew. And I'm like, oh my God, that's Vickie. Which of course, like, I immediately peed just a little,
We'll talk about that later.
little bit.
We I think we've done 3 Ps now.
I think you have.
It's a personal.
Yeah, we're done.
Yeah,
problem.
we're done.
Yeah,
We're done
That's
with
a
that.
wrap.
The joke is done.
Yeah.
But you also mentioned something about Wonder Woman 1984. Are you able to talk about that? Because I thought this was interesting because it sounded like there was one line, one word for 3 people.
Well, plus I heard when you're working on it's a Marvel set, right? That's a completely different world of lockdown and like access and treatment and all that stuff. Like
That was pretty amazing. That was super, super fun. And again, get to set, and there's 3 security guards, right? And then we would get the sides every day. So literally, like, we're there for a week and not even being on set. But they were great. They're like, look, you're principal, whatever you want to wander about and be on set, just be quiet. This is what's going on. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to wander. Heck yeah. So we literally get the script and we look at it. Security guard says freeze. And I look at Mike and I look at Chris and I'm like, all right, fellas, how we going to roll with this? You go, freh. I go, eh. You go, zzz. We all get apart, right? So we get the day set. We get there. And like, all right, Mike, you down over here, that escalator. We're at the mall. What's that, Landmark Mall or
Landmark
something?
Mall,
Whatever it's
yeah,
called.
it's been torn
right?
down since then. That was
Yeah.
Alexandria, Virginia.
So we're there, and they go, all right, Mike's down there. Chris is over here. Vickie, you're over here. You're like, which way's the scene going? Dun, 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 dun. Okay, cameras. And it goes to Mike. And I'm like, all right, Mike, super happy for you. Way to go. I'm bored. Let me have fun in my head. What if they come to me? What am I going to say? Well, why would I say freeze again? You've already said freeze. I'd say, like, stop mall security. Like, I just have these. I did the same thing on Friends from College. Like, I just have these conversations in my head.
I love that one too.
What's going to happen?
Put down the Cinnabon.
What's going to go, right? I'm like, whatever. They get done filming. They come over. The AD comes over, or whoever comes over, and they go, okay, Vickie, what's your line? And I go, stop mall security. Great, say that. No one said anything different to me. No one said, wait a minute, that's not your line. Script supervisor never came over, and I was like, you gonna let me roll? I'm gonna roll. That then morphed into I'm running with my firearm. And let me pause for a second. That armor on that set, spot on. Spot on.
Cool.
Came over, showed me the weapon, unloaded the weapon. Even when I got all like, I'm law enforcement, he goes, I don't care what you are, this is my job. And I was like, yep, put me in my place, thank you very much. Showed me everything with that weapon. 100% comfortable, wasn't loaded, broke it down, showed me. I was like, dude, that's awesome.
That's a different level of
That was
professionalism.
awesome.
Yeah.
So get done. I'm at the escalator. People are falling down. I was supposed to get to the escalator and then go off set or off scene. So people are like falling in front of me. What mall security guy is going to leave someone that falls in front of me? Why wouldn't I pick you up? Which is true, right?
Right.
So I start picking people up, helping them going. They're like, cut, okay, great. So this time when you pick them up just a little bit faster and then get them off. And I was like, sure, no problem. Right now I've added boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
And then it added to, I actually got, Patty Jenkins came over because there was a scene where she's like, all right, pull your gun out. Look, they're going up the escalator. Just have a thought like, freeze, stop, freeze. Throw me a line. That's great. Holster and then go. Perfect. Well, in that scene was I knew over here was going to happen where the bad guy was holding the kid over the balcony. I knew that because I've been on set for 3 weeks and just finally got there. For some reason, when I did this, I holstered and I looked up as if I was looking at the kid hanging off, and I was like, oh, no. I didn't realize I'm a little deaf because I'm firearms and I did DJ at clubs. I thought I said it to myself. Holstered, we get done. They yell, cut, check the gate.
You said, oh, no.
I did.
And you were mic'd up.
I was mic'd up and I didn't realize it.
You didn't
because
think it.
in
You
my
said it.
mind, I'm
Yeah,
seeing
yeah.
it. And I'm like, oh, no. Like that.
Oh, no.
Patty Jenkins came running over to me and hugged me. And she goes, when you looked up and said that, that was amazing. We're going to add some more lines for you. We'll see you next week.
They liked
Oh,
it.
that's amazing.
They liked it. They didn't use it.
You saw it as a huge flub,
I did.
and they're like,
And I was like,
That
and I
worked.
looked
That
literally, she's
worked.
hugging me, and I'm like, you heard me? Right? But I felt so comfortable on set doing that I actually got another week. And then that's the part of me on the walkie-talkie saying those
scrambling.
lines that they added for script for
That's
that to
great.
come in. Yeah, that was such a great set.
Yeah,
That
that's
was so
great.
much fun.
Well, and you also mentioned that you found, I guess, Props had bought some of your old records
Oh my God.
and planted them.
So Record and Tape Trader, so I was snipping around set, and it's funny because they did a great job. They had the members only placed all the clothes. They had the real candy that all the extras were digging their hands in, eating. And I was like, that's gross, but whatever. So I used to DJ. I went in and I looked and I saw one of my records that I had paid it forward last year. A woman at the beach was selling stuff and I gave her my DJ records. I'm like, just sell the vinyl. I don't need anything for it. Sell it. Next thing you know, the year later, I see it on set of Wonder Woman because I would write the beats per minute and if it was a fade out or a cold ending in the upper right corner. And that was my handwriting on that album right there. That was pretty cool.
That's pretty.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, talk about a small world. Where did you sell those?
Down at Bethany Beach.
Okay. So, I mean,
Delaware.
Came from Delaware down here and
Back up
for
to,
props.
yeah.
Yeah. And what kind of cars were they? I know Rick was out there.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about Rick Kain again. Rick was out there in one of the cars, but it was something about a push button car. It was a different kind of car than
he was outside.
used to.
I was inside. Yeah, he was playing police officer outside, and I was inside.
I thought it was excellent that in the city of Alexandria there were 4 or 5 Fairfax
Fairfax
County
cars. They were Fairfax cars.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
That was fun, but
You also did Law and Order.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I hear that's a pretty tight ship.
Mm-hmm.
Can you speak to your experience on that?
they were squared away. I mean, the wolf world is a great machine to get into if you can. They were right with dialogue. They were right with uniforms. They were right with procedure. Everything that they did in that scene was spot on all the way through.
Now, do you know how they do that so you have the class to demonstrate how to walk and talk as a police officer, just how to act in general?
What class?
Well, you have a class for firearms, but I'm sure you cover some of that, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Stance. Yes.
Body
Language, stance. Yeah, I didn't know what you're talking about for a second, but yeah.
No, sorry.
Yeah.
But how do they do that on that set? Or do you know?
I don't know, but I know like the scene that we were in, I could tell some of the actors were kind of struggling a little bit with that. But that's just me being hypercritical on it. But no, I mean,
with the knowledge,
with the knowledge of it. But I mean, that's, if you're cast for that role and you fit that part that they're looking for, you're going to be successful. They'll prop you up and make you successful once you're there. You've gotten to that point. Casting knows what you are, what you have, what they want for their world. It's specific, and yeah, it's just a great place to be.
Fantastic. Well, what are we going to see you in next? What do you have coming up?
HBO Max is about to release a show called Task with Mark Ruffalo. So I filmed that this summer. Great guy. Got to be in scene with him. And actually, we had to kind of collaborate. They were looking for some language prior to. And, of course, I was in another law enforcement role, and he's in a law enforcement role. And I was like, well, what if we talked about this? And he was like, yeah, great. All right, let's banter back and forth. So we bantered and then went right into the script. So I'm
Fantastic.
telling you, yeah.
Great time.
And he's just he is who he is. On sets and stuff. He's great, super nice. But I've been super blessed with a lot of the folks I've had the privilege to work with and be around. And it's a fun ride, man. Come on. It's a fun ride.
And where's that filming?
So we did it up in Philly.
In Philly, okay.
Yeah.
You seem to get a lot of police officer roles. I can't imagine why.
Shocking.
Police officer coach, right? Oh, here's my other tip before we roll.
Yes.
So I did a show called Friends from College.
Love
Keegan
that
Michael
show.
Key, Fred Savage, they were great. But here's my one tip from that. I didn't know the camera was on me the whole time. So when I'm walking back and forth and some of my looks, right, my dialogue is my dialogue. I have had people tell me, I wasn't even watching it. And when I heard you go, really? Or hey, they were like, oh my God, that's Vickie. And they would turn around. But my thing too, with Feed the Beast, most of the shows I've been in, once you're on set, whether you think you're in scene or not, act like you're in scene. Mm-hmm. Give them what they want. And I kept looking back at Fred and Keegan making those noises and shaking my head like, those two morons. That's what you see. And I never knew until that came out that the camera was, and it's not a close-up, but it's close enough where you see me as a coach walking back and forth. Yeah. Didn't know that until we actually went to do the scene. And then he would throw me some lines. Tell them like they're taking a shit. Tell them like it sounds like whatever. So my go-to is I'm like, really?
I was going to ask you
really?
who wrote that line. You're shitting all over my court.
That is funny. I laugh.
And then at the end, I'm like, quit shitting on my court. That was my throw. And I'm like, you can keep it or not. And I didn't know until it happened. So it's just
and your physicality in that scene is funny too.
Yeah,
with the it's your tennis court, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Running around.
Yeah. That was a good show. I hated that it wasn't picked up again. Well, for the sake of time, where can everybody find you? You had a website at one point.
I took it down.
It's down
because I didn't maintain it.
That's tough. That's a part of the business where you have to
I need to be better at that.
Keep up with it.
Yep.
But you have an IMDb.
I do.
You have social media, but more personal, or
My personal is for Facebook because I do that for my acting friends, and I just try and keep it actor related just to see what's going on so I can support folks if they've got a film. I want to make sure I can get to that film festival. I just did a short film with Rick last year, and we won a lot of awards in these film festivals, and it gave me a greater appreciation for the other side of the camera.
Yeah.
I did the Doritos Super Bowl crash commercial, made the first cut. That I wasn't in that commercial, and I love that part of it too, right? So there's a lot of work on both sides. But I'm on Instagram, Vickie Warehime, and yeah, it's just a lot of fun.
fantastic.
Yeah,
There's so much more to talk about with you, though, especially with the firearm component,
I love that piece.
your experience, and all of that. So we're going to have you back, and of course, we're going to have.
I want to
well,
come back and interview you guys. That's what I want to do.
I don't know.
That's going to be
There's not
interesting.
enough material here.
Yeah,
It's very thin.
there
It's thin.
is. But there is.
She will tease it out.
I will.
It will be an interrogation.
Yes.
That could be fun.
It could be fun.
And there'll be no
take
peeing,
it.
just so you know.
No.
Nobody's allowed to pee.
No. And that's that. I commend her for throwing that in because it's actually funnier when she says it.
All right, wrap this bad boy
Stop
up.
shitting on my court.
Good.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Exactly.
love
Stop
it,
peeing
love
in
it.
the chair. Come on.
Well, here's the thing. We're going to put everything that Vickie just said, how to contact you somehow, and her IMDb and everything in the description. Follow us on the socials, like, subscribe if you find this helps somebody else, whether they're novice or not. Share that with somebody. Let us know what you think, and we'll see you again soon. That's a wrap.
It's been
Thanks,
a pleasure,
everybody.
you guys.